Welcome to episode 2 of How Teachers Are Transforming Education Across Africa, one classroom at a time. I'm so excited. Today we have Sir Don Francis joining us. He is originally from the Upper West region of Ghana, but he teaches in the central region of Ghana. And he is another one of those great teachers who impressed his headmaster so much that he was able to move to the district office to become a lead of teachers across the district and work in human resources management and development. So I'm so excited. I have been following Don Francis for a while, and he has very um, sometimes a little bit controversial, but he is a storyteller and he has a passion for education and for supporting teachers and for supporting education in Ghana and thus Africa. So excited. Without saying anything else, let's hear from Sir Don Francis. So let's welcome Sir Don Francis. It's so great to have you here. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm excited to be here. My name is Sir Don Francis, a basic school teacher at the Gomoa Francis SDA Basic School in the central region of Ghana. My district is the Gomoa Central District in the central region of Ghana. Now I'm excited to be here. I love conversations that help us to talk about education. So I'm passionate about education. So getting an opportunity to talk about education feels like the best thing that is happening to me. So thank you, Darlene, for having me, and thank you everyone for coming on this video.
That's great. And so what got you into education in the first place? Like, why did you want to become a teacher? And can you tell us a little bit about your personal story?
That's usually when I start my story about how I became a teacher, it doesn't sound like, for those who know me in person, there's a twist to the story. So it doesn't sound like how they wanted it to sound or they want to know about me. So the truth is that I never wanted to be a teacher. That's how sad the whole story starts. But I have a passion to see people grow, especially children. And when I finished high school and I came back home, I worked with an IT department, an IT office. Then once in a while, people will walk in and say, "Oh, how are you able to teach? You know, I have a passion. I don't care whoever you are, whether a child or an adult. I just want to see you grow. I want to see you do better in whatever you want to do." So sometimes people come into my office with just a phone and they needed help. Then I keep helping people knowing better and better. But I found that I loved helping children far more better than the adults. Then again, the story of how my teacher helped me. I love to read. I love to read. I just read for fun. So as I keep helping the children, I realized most of them couldn't read on their phones or whatever it is, their devices, sometimes their books. And I'm like, it's easy to help them learn how to read. And I see the need to help people to read. And once someone is able to read, they're able to make decisions for themselves. So the whole passion began from working with computers and then now back to helping people learn how to read. And the story about how my teacher helped me to read kept coming in daily until one day during back in 2016, 17, I sat down and I'm like, look, I had had admission from all the top universities in the country, but I decided to go back to College of Education to become a teacher because I just wanted to pay back. I wanted to pay back for what my teacher did to me. He's the reason today I have become who I am. So why don't I just invest in just one person? Usually I tell people I came to the teaching field because I wanted to invest in just one person so I can pay back what my teacher did to me. Then I leave, not
Can you
knowing it
tell
was
us
a
a little
passion.
bit about that teacher? Like, what was your experience with that teacher that had such a great impact on you?
In grade 4, I had this teacher, Mustafa. Mr. Mustafa was my grade 4 teacher. One morning we went to school, and just when we entered into grade 4, we went to school and the head teacher at the assembly grounds introduces us to a new teacher. Hello, school, we have a new teacher here, and his name is Mr. Mustafa, and he's going to teach grade 4. And this teacher suddenly jumps in, action oriented. Yo, I'm happy to be here with all of you. the energy, the passion, the way he relates with the students. I'm like, come on, this is going to be great. We go to the class, and this teacher, the first time I answered the question, he looks at me and says, "You are very intelligent." But he gives us dictation in class. I score over 10, and he's not happy with me. But someone scores 0 over 10, then he's helping the person. But he points to me and says, "You can do better than 9 over 10." I didn't understand. At a point, he kept giving me pressure until he began bringing Nora Roberts' books to class. Nora Roberts' books were very voluminous. He will bring it full of the same books and says, "Francis, in grade 4, this Nora Roberts book, you have to read this." So we are reading it in probably 2 weeks. Today we start with chapter 1. When you go home, read the entire chapter 1. The next morning when you come, I'm going to ask you random questions based on what you read. Grade 4, to read an African child reading Nora Roberts in grade 4, that wasn't normal. But because of what he did, I'll go home and read the chapter and come back. The first day, I scored everything. He will ask you, okay, so the character did this and that at this period, and what happened? Then I answer correctly. Then he gives you something and say, okay, so tomorrow you read the next chapter. At the point we were reading 2 chapters in a day, we took over to 3 chapters, and now at the point I finished the book before him, and that's how come the whole thing. And it wasn't just about reading. After learning to read, I realized I have started writing. Readers are writers also. I have begun writing. Those days we wrote letters. This was back in around 2002, 2003, thereabout. Those days we wrote letters to communicate. We had pen pals from outside the country, we wrote letters. And I realized the letters I wrote to the States, I can't remember the address, but the person responded and brought back books, a lot of magazines. And I'm like, okay, what my teacher is doing to me is having an effect on me. It's helping me communicate to others outside the country. So I'm like, okay, let me stay. And that's how come I learned to read. And that's the influence he's had over me. And I grew up with it. So yeah.
Anyway, that's an
Mr.
amazing
Mustafa.
story. And it's so great for you to share about a teacher that you had, because I just want all the teachers who are listening to really remember and remind yourselves that your students really do look up to you. And one day you're going to have students that are telling stories about you in the same way. So it's important for us to really have that excitement. Like you said, your teacher was really passionate about helping you to read and going above and beyond. And so just to know that when teachers go above and beyond, getting paid back by how much value they're giving to the students. And so anyway, that's amazing. And so now as a teacher, what do you feel is your biggest passion, or the thing that you want to really give back to other teachers? Like, what would you want to encourage other teachers with? And what passion do you have for your classroom that you wish would be all across Ghana and all across Africa?
A teacher is like a driver of a vehicle. If you do not drive well, you won't arrive at where you are going. And no matter how good the vehicle is, if the driver is not good, you are not going anywhere. So I consider myself or every teacher as the driver. Now, I say that because I've realized the challenge with we teachers is that we haven't come to realize the power in our hands. It's not almost all the time about the content of what we teach. So for me, I wish we reframe the relationship we have with the children. I have a passion for literacy. Literacy because I believe it first begin for me. I believe this is the order I want it to go. First, literacy. The child should be able to read, write, and communicate back. That's my first option, literacy. But far beyond the literacy is education. Now I bring in education because education is not the same as schooling. Schooling, you are giving it to them. Education, they receive what you give to them, process it, and make meaningful decisions out of it. So I have that. Then the topmost of it is personal development and growth. Why do I choose that? Because in Africa, we sit in Africa and we think our problems should be solved by someone else. In Africa, we all look up to other people to come in and solve our problems. Look, I keep saying that whoever gives back to Africa, whoever donates to schools in Africa to trying to eliminate poverty, whatever it is, they are just trying to help. The real people to solve African problems are the Africans themselves. So for me, my passion begins with literacy, such that they will be able to know how to read. In my library, I have a lot of I love to read. Now I read a lot of leadership books from Miles Monroe, Bahamas, from John C. Maxwell, in the States, different places. But at the end of the day, from reading those things, how best can I use it to solve the challenges right here in Ghana, Central Region? So for me, literacy, you are able to read and write. Then from there, education. Education to me, the surest path to victory over poverty. So once the person now knows how do I say it, how to transform themselves and then their societies, then we call it education for me.
So you started by saying that you wanted to reframe the personal relationships that you have with the students. Can you give a picture of how you see it is currently? Like, what is the relationship between the teachers and the students? And how would you like that to be reframed for future generations to really build up education? And
Would you like it if I use a true story about myself and my teaching?
I would love that.
So brace yourself for it. In February 2022, I was posted to Francais my school. When I got there in Ghana, we believe that education, or we believe factually, education started from the central region of Ghana, which is where I am, central region. So for those of us who are coming from other regions, we see this place as the origin of education in Ghana. And truly, most of the people from this side of the country speak impeccable English. They speak absolutely incredible English, and we love them for it. So when I was coming in, I am coming from the middle belt. Actually, I come from the northern part of the country, upper west region. Then I grew up in the middle belt, Bono East region. Then I came to teach in the central region. So looking at my trajectory in life with regards to education and then work, I felt I was coming to a place that education is very higher than where I'm coming from. So I arrived and I was given grade 5 to teach. My first day, I get to the class and I write 17 plus 7. And out of 15 children, I had only 3 who were able to answer it. Grade 5. Those days, we were just returning from the coronavirus effect. But that was not, for me, that is not an excuse. I do not want an excuse in my teaching. Then again, I wrote C plus O2. Then a lot of them fumbled. Later, I discovered that, first of all, not because the children didn't know it, but they are not able to talk back. That's one of the reasons. Children do not have any relationship with the teacher. So they feel like African children, they feel like we won't talk. You know, in Africa, we believe adults should be talking out of respect. That is how it used to be. So these children are going with that kind of tradition. So even their teachers, they don't talk back. That was one of the challenges. The second challenge is that they didn't even know it. I was surprised because where I came from, a child in kindergarten too will be able to pronounce that word. And for the next 4 weeks, I used different pedagogies, techniques, trying to help the children to learn. And I realized it was so poor. So one of the nights around 2 a.m., I'm reading, I asked for books from a lot of people. I'm doing courses on the internet to see how best I can help my class. Then something just dawned on me that, look, let me forget about every theory that I have read over the past from the college and then over the past 1 month and do it as I want to do. So the next day I go to school and I scrap off the curriculum and the lesson note that I have had written down. And I'm like, I'll go with this student based on how my instincts, how I want to do it. So I go, I have a laptop. I go, then I'm like, I want to tell you guys a story. Then everyone gives me the ear. Then I give them a true story about how my teacher changed and why I am here. I came to the teaching field because I just want to change one child. So out of these 15 children, who are you? Who among you is to be changed before I leave? Everyone's hand is up. And I'm like, if that's the case, then I'll need you to do a few things for me. I put away my lesson notes. Now I said, let me try with a dictation. Nobody scored even one of it. I knew that they had a challenge. And I told them, look, I'm not like the old teachers. I'm a new breed kind of teacher. See, you have to talk back to me and let me know what you want. Let's talk. Then someone just put the hand up and said, yeah, I don't have a book. I don't have a pencil. Oh, I said, okay, I can get you a pencil. I can get you a book. But you need to write that on a paper. You have to put it on paper. Say, please, I need that. I don't care how you write it. I do not have wrong writing. All I need is communicate whatever you want to tell me on a paper. Don't forget that this child can spell too. And the very beginning, it was hard. Sometimes you take a whole letter and you don't know. So I had to scrap off the a lesson note, and teach them letter writing. So I first taught them letter writing, give them the address. Address is normal. Taught them how to write a semi-formal letter. Then for the next 2 weeks, now that they understood it, they learned how to write letters to me. And trust me, for the first 3 weeks, you receive a letter and there's no head or tail. Beginning at the beginning, some of them will send it to their siblings for them to write. When you bring it that way, I'll tell you, I don't want a dishonest letter. I want something from yourself. Don't let anyone write it for you. So when you do that, I won't give it to you. Whatever you want, I won't give it to you unless you write it. And sometimes I receive just one line, a one-line letter. I have a couple of letters here, right home. And a few days, these children are picking up. These children are picking up. So once I posted one of the letter, crop up a few things outside, and communicated back to them through the letters too. So when you write to me and I'm going to give you whatever you're looking for, I'll have to communicate back to you on the same letter. So you send in, then you receive. So sometimes they look at mine and they're trying to write back. And that's how come just by writing letters. I posted one of the letter on Facebook and it went viral. Those days, the current information minister, they were all retweeting it, talking about how that this is a good strategy. So I knew I was doing well. I had thrown away all the pedagogies just to have a relationship with the children. And they became my friends and we wrote letters. And that's how come we took it on. So when I talk about the relationship, that's one of the things that I want to see change.
That's amazing. So when you're thinking about the relationships like that you have with your students and you see other classrooms or you see across Ghana, how pervasive is that old way? Like you were able to make some changes. Do you feel like most teachers are trying to make those changes, or do you feel like there's still a long way to go?
This sometimes just becomes a bit dicey to answer. You see, I say that because in Ghana, first of all, teaching itself is more like most people come to the field because that's the easiest avenue for employment. And we are taught teaching is both an art and then a gift. But what I believe is that for whatever I'm able at, whatever pedagogy I use, I learned it. This I talked about how to make children my friend. I took it. I tell people my teaching style is a compendium of almost every teacher I've met around along the way. I had a teacher in college. He wasn't friendly at all. He wasn't friendly, but he impacted my life because that type of teaching was what I needed at that period. You need to get so I keep adding right from grade four, my grade four teacher, Mr. Halid Mustafa. So currently, all my teachers, even from the university, my lecturers, I try to merge all their pedagogies and their style of teaching. But how many teachers will get the time to do that in Ghana? Because this whole job doesn't pay in quotes. You need to get incentives to motivate you. But then what most teachers are failing to realize is that once you do it well, it pays more than you expect. That's the clue in the whole thing. So I think for now, I think it's an area we need to raise the conversation about the power of a teacher in the classroom, to both usually to the teachers themselves. For us to know that as teachers, in as much as the job doesn't pay, whatever thing that surrounds the teaching field, look, the best way to enjoy that field is to own the field, own the job you do, and then do it as though, I am a Christian. If I want to say, they'll think I'm bringing Christian values, but I do it as if I'm doing for God. Let me put it that way. But I do not see that across our classrooms. It's hard.
Yeah, that's great. So what I hear from you is really how you're just taking responsibility. Earlier, you talked as well about all the professional development you're doing. You're reading books from wherever you can get a hold of the books to learn more about leadership, because really that's what a teacher is. You're leading the children towards their futures and giving them the best education that you can get. And so I feel like that's really powerful in the classroom. And so when you're making these changes, how do you feel like what is the best way to approach education in Ghana to really influence even more change? Like the saying is, be the change that you want to see, which I really see in you. You're being the change yourself. But is there something more that we can do to really spread that change across Ghana and across Africa in general?
And the challenge is that no one has told the teachers themselves. It's a general thing that I am seeing. No one has told the teachers about, yeah, you can't give what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. We are looking to solve problems. And right inside the classroom is a challenge. It's already a problem. So we are saying Africa has a lot of problems. Challenges are in Africa. We want to solve them. And it begins from the classroom. If you are not able to solve it from the classroom, how then do you go outside to solve it? Fortunately for Ghana, the National Teaching Council is coming in to give us professional development and other things. I wrote about it recently on Facebook, and unfortunately, the way they rolled out a professional development never matched with what we need. Why? Because it is seen as something that is being enforced from outside the classroom. Yet, the best thing for MTC, for the government, for all other stakeholders that come together to make education work is for them to empower the teacher to know that you own the teaching yourself. Do we, please do you get what I'm trying to say? You own the teaching. The outcome of the teaching belongs to you in person. But if it's, I read a bit about human beings and I realized no human being wants to be controlled. So, for instance, whatever I'm talking about, I have younger generation of teachers who are following me and I'm mentoring a couple of them. And they just come up that, look, what you are doing, I love it and I want to do it. So when we empower them, they see us do this and they love it and they come up to learn from us. We now can help them do it. But if we imagine a teacher in the class and I come and like the way you are teaching is so good, the children can't read and write and you're just doing another thing, they will feel like they are being forced. And that's what National Teaching Council and the government sometimes does to us. So I am saying that, for instance, what you are doing, I'm saying that let's find a way, first educating the teacher themselves, the teachers. Let's educate them. Let them know that the job they are doing, it's for their own, they should own it. And now, when somebody owns it, in my case, let me give you the last story about this whole thing. I am, language-wise, I am Dagari. In Ghana, we say we are Dagari. I speak the Dagari language. It is in the upper western part of Ghana. And I speak Twi as well, but I teach in the Fanti land. Fanti is one of the dialects in the Akan language. But sometimes the written format, there are a lot of people who come from the Fantis who can't write it. So I come here and I've been doing Twi and Dagari all my life. And you come and you are supposed you teach 9 subjects in the class. Workload so huge. And I'm supposed to teach Fanti. I meet someone who is a Fanti right in my school and says that I've been teaching for 20 years, but I can't teach a Fanti. I am born and bred the Fanti, but I can't teach it. Now look at me, who just came about a month ago. I'm supposed to teach Fanti. But guess what? I went to buy books on my own, costing me about 500 cedis back at 2022. I went to the education office and asked if I could get more Fanti books. I will sit by the books, read the Fanti vowels. Oh, what is the difference between this and that? And I'm reading. In a month, I was teaching Fanti till date. I teach Fanti. I have never learned Fanti from the classroom. I learned it on my own. I have Fanti books here. Now I own a Fanti Bible in my library. And Sunday, I read it at church. So when teachers come to realize that, okay, what I'm doing, look, let it not sound as if somebody outside the classroom, maybe NTC, the government is trying to force me. But if I do it well, it's for my own benefit. So I use the phrase, teachers should own education.
Anyway, that's such an amazing and empowering way to look at your profession. Like you're inside the classroom, the NTC people, the headmasters, and the nobody is there. You are there with your children and you are in charge. And to step really into that power, I think will really bring an authority that and a self-esteem and a pride really in the job. And so it's really great to see you really taking that on and being an example. And I hope that the teachers that are listening, that you can see yourselves in that same way, that you have that incredible power to change people's lives. And that if you talk to the students about how you're there to help them to become who they want to become, then they're going to really step into that and really appreciate everything that you're doing for them. So as you're talking and sharing your experience and just really encouraging teachers to step into that role of really owning their classroom, owning that education, owning their lives in that way. Can you give some specific strategies, like something that somebody could get up tomorrow morning and say, okay, today I am going to do this to be able to step into my power, as a teacher, to really own the education and own my role?
Interestingly, there are a lot of people who are interested in education than we know. I realized it about 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't know. When I began teaching, I had never imagined someone would come from somewhere and say, "Let me help you to do that." I never knew. All I did for close to a year, I did everything with my own money. Sometimes I take my salary and I use it on the children again. And you see, my former classroom is what is appearing on my background. The first of it was worse than this. It was worse than this. Then I keep writing interesting stories about how my children, I just enjoy the profession. Then one day somebody approached, like one of the days, let me chip this in. We have what we call, I bargain that every teacher should have a portfolio. Now, in a portfolio, I tell what type of teacher I am. So my portfolio, I tell you, if you bring your word to my class and you cooperate with me, the word cooperate with me, and then I'm giving the opportunity. By the time the child leaves my class, I train leaders and I call it the life values. When I say life value, leadership, initiative, teamwork, and excellence. So in my portfolio, I tell you, these are the values I use to train your word in my classroom. And that includes raising leaders are empathetic people. So back in 2022, I keep giving back to the children. I don't expect it to come from anywhere. But one of the days, we are vacating, then we are seated by SB. I'm filling in my SB, trying to give out the report card. Then the children are enjoying themselves. So I see that some of them will come in and give me sometimes just banana. They come in and give me like that. And I'm like, okay, God bless you. I didn't expect that. Then I see one girl standing by the pillar. And whenever I try to look at her face, she dodges. I'm like, what's happening? But because I was busy, I didn't pay attention. Until when all her colleagues left, she came closer. Her name is Lydia. She came closer and said, those days we had the one CD paper. She came closer and said, "Say, I see people are giving you a lot of gifts. For me, I don't have any gift for you. We brought, for myself and my two siblings, we brought one CD to school. My mom gave us one CD. So what we'll do is that since people have given you food, banana, and everything, I've not seen anyone give you water. So please take this money. Let someone buy you water. If I go and buy it, people will think I'm buying. So let someone buy you water. Then give us the 80 pesos on it. Take the 20 pesos. Use the water. Oh, as she was saying it, I didn't even hear it begin from the beginning. Then I saw she's left, went to buy the water and come. Then she said, I was trying to tell you that I have one CD. You take 20 pesos for me to buy water for yourself. So that when you eat, because people have bought you food, when you finish eating, then you can drink. What is the child trying to do? Empathy. The child is thinking beyond. This is not about teaching, but the child has gone ahead. Now, I see that, and I was so touched by the child's story. Christians have something in their Bible, they say, the widows, blah, blah, blah. One story like that. So I want to raise leaders who think about the nation, who think about other people. And I believe I'm on course. And one day, I believe my own students will lead this country because that is what I'm looking for. Somebody comes, then post that, and I go back to do my report card, only to come online to see I've had over 200 shares at once on Facebook. What's happening in my inbox? Somebody is asking, okay, what's the name of that child? I want to sponsor the child. I'm buying bags for. I didn't know people were interested in education because we feel like nobody's minding us teachers. So I'm like, okay, people are interested. I thought, and they were all genuine, no fake, no scammers. So I got and one person I don't know how to receive. Usually I want to give, I don't know how to receive. But okay, let me try first, and I gave my phone number out. Then Momo starts coming. The first person I gave it to another person. Then later I had to edit the post and put it in. The long story is that at the end of the day, because of that child, we had a lot of people coming in to help us, and I held a party for the class. That was the first time I realized people were interested in education than we know. That's because we limit education to the classroom. But you see, that's an error because we are training nurses, that's the hospital people, we are training all forms of people in the society. That means that the conversation about education should be broadened. And when we broaden it, people would like to come in. There's nobody in the society, even let me take it, they're uneducated. They need education too. So once you open up, don't limit your education to the classroom. Just go and teach and come back. I'm not saying the challenge is that people do not know what they should share about what they do. Teachers do not know what they should share, so they just post anything at all. No, share the truth, share the originality of your work. People will come in and help. And once there's a third eye coming in to help, you feel like, okay, because whatever we need, like I told you about my classroom was ripped up in October 2022. And we had written to the government for several days. Nobody's coming to help. A friend just calls and say, and I don't know them, just social media. Oh, your school building has been ripped off. What is the government doing? I'm like, I didn't get anybody to help. I'm trying to save and see if I can do something. And it's costing us over tens of thousands. Then he says that, okay, I'm going to help you do that. Before I realize the classroom, what you see in my background, that was when we now worked on it. And he comes in, re-roof the building, brings us electricity, the classroom. Oh, come on. So I'm trying to say that teachers, please, people are interested in education than you know. Learn how to communicate. Don't just limit yourself to the classroom. Teachers are the foundation. We are the foundation of the countries. Africa, we are the foundation. So if we do it right, if we lay it right, Africa will get it right. So again, what strategies should they use? I don't know by how. I don't know by how. I chose social media, and then again, I don't even know how people got to hear of me. But I'll be walking through the town. Then the MC, I'm told the MC is looking for me, the municipal chief executive, looking for me. Nobody even knows my name. I don't mention my name. Then they said the MC came here to look for you. Okay, he says he has been here twice. Please. Then I receive a call. Come to my office. The MC says, come to my office, even without mentioning my name. So I'm trying to say that people are interested in education than we know. So please, teachers, please expand the conversation about communication, about education, and others will come in to help. So for the strategies, there are a lot. Social media has brought a lot of them. You can speak to the people just around you. You can use social media. You can use whatever it is. But I'm trying to say that by whichever way that works for you, expand the conversation about education, and it's going to be great.
That's so encouraging. What an encouraging story. And what comes to mind is that Africa is known for storytelling. Like traditionally, your ancestors, that's how education came about, is through storytelling. And so what you're saying is that continue that historical way of communicating and tell the stories. Tell the stories of what is happening in the classroom to the community, on social media, whatever ways, maybe in your church groups or whatever, in the mosques or wherever you have opportunity to talk to people, is to really share the stories. Because what John is saying is that people are interested, people want to help, but they don't know how to help until you tell a story of a particular need. And so, not that you're begging, but you're just saying, this is what we're facing. And then you allow to receive. And I really like that what you said is just like, you're used to giving, giving, giving. And as teachers, you're just so used to giving all the time that receiving doesn't seem like something that you should even think about. It's something that I'm learning personally in my life as well, is just to really open your heart and open your hands to whatever help that anybody has to give, and really invite people into your classrooms, like John was saying, to participate with you in educating the children. So what amazing sharing that you had today. I feel like there's just so much of what you've talked about that people can imitate and can be inspired by. I'm all about practical things that people can do. So just to look back on the topics that we covered, like you were talking about, building those close relationships with the students, making sure that their voice is being heard, that students' voices really need to be heard in the class. And so as teachers, we need to be constantly reflecting on how well we're listening to the students, trying to understand where they're coming from. And then, like John said, about giving them tools, like writing the note to ask, please, I need a pencil or I need a book, and then writing back to them to get them to read. And then also just taking responsibility, taking ownership for what's happening in the classroom. It's a lot of what John shared today was just for us to really reflect on what our practice looks like and make some mind shift changes so that we can move forward in the way that's going to help the students the most. And then lastly, when he just talked about making sure that you're sharing the stories from the classroom with wherever you go, to once you own your education, it's going to be easier to share it with those people around you and be amazed, like, oh, this is what's happening in the classroom. This amazing thing happened. Even though we didn't have this and this and this, the students were able to improve in this way. And then when people hear the story, they're going to be impressed, but then they're also going to think, but what do you mean you didn't have that? And then they might want to try to provide that thing for you. So I feel like it's just been so amazing. I don't know if there's any other thoughts that have come to your mind about things that teachers could be doing, something that you could say to teachers to encourage them towards the better practice or whatever you have.
Think you mentioned about listening to the children. It's more like the children are the clients of what we do. And in every business, if you don't treat your clients well, they won't come back. Let's not see it because we are employed by the government and not the children. We treat them right. I say this because when I began teaching, when I learned to teach fancy, that was how I learned to listen to the students. So I'm teaching the fancy until one set of batch came to my class, the second batch that came to my class. And I had this student very brilliant in the fancy language. And one of the days, I finished teaching fancy. Then she comes and she said, when you teach fancy, I don't understand. I'm like, Naomi, what I say? He says, sometimes your fancy is like English. And truly, because I felt I was getting comfortable teaching the fancy, it had taken me close to 2 months, and I had not intentionally updated myself about the fancy I was teaching. So, not knowing, I was slipping back to the tree language instead of the fancy. And when she gave me that feedback, I was so blessed because it helped me go back to learn. So children's feedback is very important. Then again, I had something I practice in the classroom. I call it we hold monthly meetings. So if a term is 3 months, first month, monthly meetings, the children have one Friday off, the last Friday of the month. So we have a 5 member panel and they would lead the whole class to discuss. And I've taught them. So when you come new to my class, I teach you how the meeting is done. But after the new one, at the first meeting, I don't come there. I only correct you as time goes on. Then I realized after 1 or 2 meetings, the children themselves will tell me, sir, please, this type of meeting, we don't want you to listen to what they're going to say. If we want you to see anything, it will be on our minutes, not in your person. And I'll be teaching, sometimes you'll be teaching, and they bring in a letter written and signed by all the executives and representatives of the, and they're like, say, even though the class meeting is supposed to be at the end of the month, we need 1 day off to do this, to do that. And it makes sense listening to the children. At a point, the children were rather redirecting what I teach, and I didn't suffer. Sometimes we have a topic in science or science and industry. And these children come and they're like, say, you know, choose between teaching us on the laptop. I have a projector I use in the class. Choose between projecting the industries or letting us go on field trip right in the town. And I'm like, okay, I would love the field trip. And I went to speak with their leaders. The field trip, this is what is going to cost us. What do we do? They are like, we can write letters. Listening to the children, it's just more like I'm just a facilitator. And listening to them blessed me so much. So I would want to send the conversation towards that, and that the children are our clients. Sometimes the client feedback helps us in restructuring what we do. And I want teachers to pay attention to that aspect as well. It helps.
And so from what age do you think that students can have this kind of student meeting and give feedback to the teachers?
The disparity in education in Africa sometimes causes that. So I'm unable to mention this age, but the children I handle are most often from age 10 onwards. Maximum is around age 13, 14. But for me, I've come to realize that whatever definition you give to children, in college, I was one of the things I learned from college was that when we give birth to a newborn baby, the mind is like a tabula rasa. There's nothing in it. So the child starts putting things in it. When I learned that, it blessed me so much. What I did was that, okay, if that's the truth, society helps the child. If you find an armed robber at age 50, it means that society helped the child to do that. So in that case, I will help you to put right things in there. So with me, that's why I said I raise leaders. Once you get to my class, I'll tell you, whatever you know, scrap it off. You are learning new values here. And interestingly, beginning, it did not look like it. And because we run the termly system, by the time they understand your system, then they are leaving the class. But that's one thing about children, it remains with them forever. Yeah.
So I would say any child that you have a relationship with, that you can ask for their feedback. And once you are open to getting feedback from the students, from children, any age, that they will give you. And of course, the younger the students are, then you have to take it from a mature point of view to say, what does this feedback actually mean? And so it needs a little bit more interpretation. But I really like what you were saying about how you were explaining to have the meeting and stuff. And I'm just wondering if people who are teaching the younger ages could modify it so that it would fit in with those younger ages to really get the feedback from the students. So this has been such a great conversation. I really enjoyed having you here to hear all of your experiences, and the way you tell stories is so interesting. I met John because he is pretty active on social media, and he's always posting very thoughtful and reflective posts about life, but a lot about education and teaching. And one of the main questions that he asked in one of his posts was, how do we modify our traditions to meet 21st century demands? And I know we've talked a long time already, but I'm just wondering if, John, you would just like to speak to that sentence a little bit here just before we close out.
So ever since I asked that question, I've had different views. But personally, what I am learning is that people without identity goes nowhere. So we are not Africans because our color is dark, no. But we are Africans because of a certain, we have a section of people in Canada, in the US, in several other places, in Australia, who equally have this kind of complexion. So Africa is not about complexion, but Africa is about identity. And some of our identity, some of our culture, that makes us who we are. I believe that for everything around us, I am a personal group development person. And I believe that for everything that works, we can still make it work better. And for everything that doesn't work, we can learn from it. So when it comes to our culture, there are some of them that we need to modify them. We need to modify them and keep imagining. Because, for instance, in Africa, children used to be flogged. I've been flogged before when I was a kid. I've been flogged for coming home late in the night. You are supposed to be at home by 7 p.m. You came by 9 p.m. And we went to watch TV. And what did I go to watch? I went to watch weather reports. It wasn't what I went to do wasn't bad. But the loss at home is that you are supposed to come home and you don't have a TV. You see, the flogging in this case, I was right because it's a passion. I love to learn about other countries and the weather that's going over there. So my dad didn't know about that and he beats me. He beats me. He's right to enforce the law, but I'm also right to follow about things I love to learn about. Now, if he beats me, you are stopping me from being creative. You are stopping me from expanding my knowledge. So just like that scenario, I feel like Africa or in Ghana, our culture, we should start looking at the places we can modify. Modify doesn't mean totally eradicating all the culture. If we throw away our culture, there will be no identity. But I believe every aspect of our culture, some of them we need to even increase, some of them we need to look at it and review it. For instance, as I talked about on Facebook, in the northern part of the country, my big brother's wife is my wife, as in the name we give to her is called my wife. And my wife's family, the ladies in there will call me their husband. You know, in this case, if you are a foreigner and you come in, you might not, let's say I marry a lady outside Africa or even outside, just right here in Ghana, from the southern part, unless she is educated, she won't understand. Do you get that? And I'm asking, how best do we do it such that that person feels at ease, yet we don't throw away the culture, which means education is needed. Number two is what I talked about, how that when I was growing up, it was normal for an elder, especially your granddaughter. In fact, till now, most people call their granddaughters my wife, and then grandsons, my husband. But in the wake of learning about How does some of these things pave way for pedophiles, for other people to go to? The truth is that not all of them are pedophiles. Not all of them. So it calls for the thinking that is it true that it's part of why pedophiles get to influence society, gets to do the bad things they do? Then we look at it. If it's true, what can we do about that? You know, that people who are saying, okay, let's not, you're trying to step on our culture. No, that's not, it's not like I'm trying to step on the culture. But what's the best way we can sandwich the two things and then find the best way to move? And the challenge is that Africa sometimes, this we need to open our minds with sentiment. Sentiment. Sometimes we bring in sentiment when it comes to touching things that need to change. And I speak a bit of French, je parle français, peu un peu. Then I don't know all of these things, but I learned it. So if I could learn a language, then I can also learn to modify my culture. And I speak my language perfectly. I've left home for over 20 years and I'm not living in my motherland where I was being bred to, but I speak the language. So I'm saying that the things that set us back, especially with regards to culture, let's start the conversation. Sometimes we don't even know the answer, but when we start, we know where. During the conversation, I brought up that case because I keep asking myself, I love children so much, just that I have a very serious boundary. For instance, children, one child, if you are one or two, you don't come to my home. You don't visit me at home. There are times I hold parties for them in the house. But one, especially female children, if they are one or two, you don't visit me. And till now, they've understood me. Why? Because I've read about how that some people molested children. Yet I don't even think I can ever think about it about myself. But then trying to save myself from that kind of thing, and it has helped me. So once again, I we need to raise questions. In fact, every aspect of our culture, we should raise questions so that we get the answers we are looking for. I know if you get what I'm trying to put up.
Absolutely. No, it's very important. And I know that it's, I mean, the particular example that you gave, it's a little bit controversial because people with pure hearts are using it to build community and to build those family relationships, but it's just the few who are going to use it for some kind of negative intent that it's going to ruin. And so these kind of conversations are just important to have, just as you explained, is that we need to be paying attention to if some kind of tradition or cultural practice is harming somebody, then we need to rethink whether or not that's appropriate and whether or not you want that thing to be part of your identity. And I just felt like you really you positioned yourself in such a way saying, this is my conviction, this is how I am going to move forward, and whether you do or not is up to you and your conscience. But for me, these are the boundaries that I've set. And I think that that's a really important place to be. And especially as a teacher, because your students, they're vulnerable and they often like they fall in love with their teacher. Like so many kids are just like, oh, I'm going to marry my teacher one day. And when students are having feelings like that, it's really easy to take advantage. And so it's very important to have the boundaries, but also to have the relationship where the students can come to you and talk to you if there's a problem or something. So it's all about having these kind of conversations to figure out what is the best way and what is the best boundary for each individual teacher to set to provide the safest environment for everybody. So I just really appreciate you so much, Sir Don Francis. I'm normally somebody who doesn't use a lot of these titles, but after talking to you and you were just like, oh, the students call me sir, and so I just put Sir Don Francis. But I just think of sir as like the dukes and lords in England, but I just feel like you have proven yourself to be one of those stand-up people that are fighting for the people, and I feel like you really have proven that you are definitely Sir Don Francis, and we look forward to hearing more from you on your social media posts. And yeah, so people who are watching, we would love to hear your comments, your questions, anything that you would like to further information about. If you're very interested, we can have Sir Don Francis come on again and answer any questions or further the conversations, whatever needs to happen to make sure that you as teachers feel supported, you feel loved, you feel appreciated for all the hard work that you're doing, for all of the thinking and planning and reflecting that is necessary to really provide education that these kids need for the 21st century. So thank you so much again, Dawn, for joining us and for sharing everything that you have. I don't know, do you have a call out to any of your teachers that you work with or anything else you want to say?
Yeah. I have so many amazing teachers. The truth is that I know teachers who are far better than me, but there's only one challenge with them because they do not share their stories. And like you said, Africans are known for, I didn't even know this is how we tell stories. I just say the truth, I say it as it is. And somebody say, hey, you know how to share stories? I'm like, I'm just trying to be honest and say the truth. So I want to encourage, I have Sir Charles, I have Dorit. Look, I have amazing young teachers around me, but the issue is that they are not sharing their story. So let me encourage other teachers to keep. And then if people, when you watch us, give us the feedback. Those who watch the show, please let us know. Okay, keep asking the questions and we'll be answering. Then it helps us to do it better. So teachers, please share your stories. And then those outside education, please also keep asking us the questions and help us do what we do. Love all of you.
Awesome. So you said you know so many teachers that are doing great things. It would be great if you could introduce them to this program. We can highlight what they're doing on this program. It's how teachers are transforming education across Africa, one classroom at a time. And I will have a link in the comments where you can apply to be a guest on this show. And I would love to hear your story and to let you come on and tell us what you think about how education is progressing across. Well, right now, I've had two Ghanaians. I'm looking forward to having a Nigerian soon. But anybody that you know that has something to share, please let them know about our program because we would love to highlight them so that we can all be encouraged to how education really is transforming and meeting the needs for the 21st century. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. Dawn, you want to say bye?